वेलकम टू इनक्यूब सर। सर हम आपके बारे में जानते हैं बट आप एक ब्रीफ अपना इंट्रो दे दें लोगों को।
So, I am Vinod Abrol. So, I'm a chartered accountant by background, qualified in 2000, roughly 23 years now. I started my career with Big Four, worked with PricewaterhouseCoopers, then with E&Y. Then in 2013, I joined Jabong as a CFO and ultimately was there from 2013 to 2018. We sold Jabong to Flipkart in 2016. So saw the journey of building a startup firsthand from say 3 lakhs per day revenue to roughly 8 crores per day when we exited. And finally, post all the integration and everything was done with Myntra and Flipkart, I joined SAR Family Office to head the alternate investments. And here my role is typically to understand the sector, industry, from the strategic investments which we have done across the various verticals, be it on the side of LivePure, which is into water purification, air purification appliances. Then on the energy storage business, which is Livguard, and the third one on the EV side, which is basically electrics, to see where we can probably digitalize these networks and support the entire team. So we have a team across for all these three verticals to support them wherever help is needed. And through our balance sheet, incubate capital, we have invested close to $50 million odd into the markets, both directly and indirectly. So evaluating the investments, early stage, we are an early stage investor or a late stage pillar. So yeah, that's a brief about me. That's what I do for a living. That's about it.
वाह सर, इट्स सो गुड। आपकी इन्वेस्टमेंट के प्रिंसिपल्स क्या होते हैं एंड
तो
व्हाट आर यू?
इन्वेस्टमेंट तो बेसिकली देखिए 3 प्रिंसिपल्स पे डिपेंड करता है। सो
Right.
एक तो ऑब्वियसली मार्केट ऑडियंस कितनी बड़ी हो सकती है आपकी, और उसमें कंपटीशन भी यू शुड फैक्टर इन। सो टोटल एड्रेसेबल मार्केट और ऑब्टेनेबल मार्केट आपकी
Right.
कितनी है। द सेकेंड, अगर ऑप्टिमेबल मार्केट भी आपकी रीजनेबल है तो उसके बाद फाउंडिंग टीम के ऊपर कन्विक्शन, सो हाउ स्ट्रॉन्ग द फाउंडर इज, नॉलेज अबाउट द इंडस्ट्री, कैसे वो उसका बैकग्राउंड है, मतलब हाउ स्ट्रॉन्ग दे आर ऑन द पर्टिकुलर थिंग विच दे आर वर्किंग ऑन. सो ऑल्सो the team is a key part. I think alone nobody can do achieve it. So how strong is the team to work around? And at the end of the day, how amenable the founder is to probably pivot the business. Because
Right.
I personally understand that no startup probably has figured out at the time of at a pre-revenue or at a concept stage that what all pivots would be required. So how fast the decision making is, and decision making लेने के बाद मतलब even out of say 10 decisions you take, the 7 decisions are right. I think you have done a decent job. There is nothing right or wrong in probably why you are building a startup. You may work on a thesis initially, लेकिन वो थीसिस इनिशियली के बाद आपको प्रूव करता है जब आप मार्केट को हिट करेंगे कि प्रॉबली वो वैसे नहीं चल सकता जैसे आप चलना चाहते हैं। तो उसके हिसाब से फाउंडर कितना स्ट्रॉन्ग है डिसीजन मेक करने में और कितना स्ट्रॉन्ग है पिवट करने में अपने बिजनेस को, और उसके हिसाब से मैनेज करने में। सो आई थिंक दैट इज़ द की। एंड ऑल द गुड स्टार्टअप्स, if they have a good business model and a path to profitability at a later stage, which is a buzzword now, so they will survive and they will probably be able to raise a large amount of capital which is required for the growth of business, any business which is required.
Could you please tell us what was your first investment?
So on a first investment which we looked into was into the business of say air purification. At the time we just invested, so we invested, so we were slightly ahead of the market. We thought that air purification would be a big vertical, which is now a big vertical, but it is concentrated within certain markets. So the awareness is the key part of the business in building something on a new category or a category creation. So I think that awareness requires certain time to build up. But yeah, if the product is good, the quality is good, and the addressable market is there, then you can actually crack the code. So the secret is that all the legacy businesses which are being done over a period of time, they have a core audience जिसको वो disrupt नहीं करना चाहते.
Right.
So you want to create a category where you are probably talking to the various people who understand, who want to understand more. And today the generation of your kind is more inquisitive. So
Right.
all the teenagers, all the people who are born in 2000 would be say 25 years in 2025. And that's the stage at which everybody will have a disposable income, and this generation has got a strong mindset
Right.
to adopt to new products, to change what is
Mhm.
required. Today, most of the people, if you ask them to work in Delhi, they probably will figure out a way that if there is an option outside Delhi, because the Delhi NCR has got the
Right.
most pollution. But so I think from that perspective, the market was huge. The product is a differentiator, and we entered into that market, and we did a decent job in probably investing into that market. So on a particular basis, I think consumer is what we understand better, because we have built all the consumer related business. India is a consumption driven
Right.
economy. So we are the largest manpower in the world.
True.
We crossed that yesterday officially. So from that perspective, and the young manpower, after that, the disposable income, and with the penetration of the digital businesses happening through the various means, Jio doing a great job in penetrating all the stuff to the hinterlands. आज की तारीख में मोबाइल वगैरह सबको accessible है. So I think India is ready for a disruption, and there would be a lot of startups and lot of innovations which would come from across the India, and we are only seeing it mushrooming around now in tier 2, tier 3 towns. So they have got equally or more. It is equivalent to, say, probably you talk about an Indian cricket team 20 years when we won a 1983 World Cup. Most of the people were from the metro towns. Today, if you look into the Indian cricket team, maybe 50% of the team or more is from the tier 2, tier 3 towns.
Right.
So it has to evolve. It will evolve for all the businesses, and there will be a seasoned founder, frugal founders who have cracked the market, who have a differentiated product, and who understand what is required to be consumer. So hands-on with the ground is very much important for any startup to be a successful, according to me.
But don't you think, sir, that new reports came recently that India startup is kind of a bubble? It gonna
Yeah.
burst. But what's your thought about this?
So see, my thought of is startup should solve a real problem. So most of startups which have come up, maybe they are solving a problem or they are doing a convenience, like a 10-minute delivery is a convenience. So
Right.
maybe people will pay for a 10-minute delivery, but will the unit economics ever stack up from that
Do
perspective?
you think it's a future business?
It's a future
convenience
business,
is
because
like,
at the end of the day, you are acquiring customers and you are
Right.
creating a large database, I think, which will be monetized at some
Right.
point in time. There is no, so as I said, there is nothing right, wrong in startups. So
Right.
they will definitely figure out a way to monetize. So I think that it's not a bubble, but where people are only creating something which is not probably investable. It could be a legacy business which could give you a return, but it may not be interested for a value creation from an investor perspective.
Right.
So at the end of the day, whoever invests into a startup from a value creation perspective has to figure out an exit. And that is one of the key criteria when you select a startup, that what is the exit which is possible for that. So everybody can say that they can do an IPO, but IPO is a long shot. So I have a first-hand experience of doing an IPO. From that perspective, it's a long shot. It requires a lot on corporate governance, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years to structure it. And I think you need to continually pump up that capital which is required. So I think startup has a place for itself. If it is solving a real problem, it is solving a convenience, there is a real moat in building a business. And the moat can also be probably a scale which you have acquired.
Exactly.
That's a significant moat. So to replicate that moat would be strong and tough probably for anybody to come in. और तब तक आप मतलब अगर हेड स्टार्ट आपको 6 महीने से 8 महीने का है किसी बिजनेस में, चाहे टेक्नोलॉजी है चाहे कुछ भी है, आई थिंक यू हैव अ फेयर चांस ऑफ सक्सीडिंग इनटू दैट बिजनेस.
राइट. सर, आपकी अभी तक टोटल इन्वेस्टमेंट कितने रहे? लाइक,
So on a group perspective, we have invested into close to 18 odd companies put together on that perspective and spread across. Some would be early stage, some would be late stage. So pretty much sector agnostic. We incubate also certain ventures where we understand that because of the management bandwidth, we don't want to run that business, but we get quality or seasoned founders to run that business, and they run that business because they want to do that business, and coming out of job for everybody, they want a stable probably landing place. so that they are stabilized from that perspective. So we incubate couple of businesses which we feel conviction is high from our knowledge of the strategic investments that it would work. Also, we do a small check in where somebody is leading the investment and already the problem statement has been addressed and there is a product market fit or a series B, series C happening. And also at a very early stage, probably where the concept is good, the founders are great, and they have just started or hitting a product market fit, and we believe that this could become a great business in future. So all these theses put together, but yeah, it is at the end of the day, an equity investment is a binary. It's a 0-1 game. So you may, some may work, some may not work. But yeah, it's interesting. It's always interesting to meet quality people, quality founders, and everybody has a different thought process, and we learn from everybody. So it's not that probably we are here to impart some education to them. It's a mutual exchange program, because most of the thing which founders tell us may also be the first time which we hear from that, and we can also put that to action into our strategic businesses, because that is where the knowledge sharing helps. And similarly, whatever knowledge we have gained and whatever infrastructure we have built over the decades can be provided to the founders, maybe opening the gate or opening the gate to an investor, to a VC fund. That is, I think, somewhere we can save the bandwidth of the founder, or probably getting into certain parts of the country where the Indian terrain is very difficult. So if you want to get into the hinterlands, probably we can open up the doors and provide you a right opportunity to go there. So I think that is where we help across. So it's probably it's shared responsibility to make where we are a minority stake, or probably we are okay, but if the founders want something, so evaluation from all aspects, so we are ready to put that. I think that's a requirement and expectation from each investor, and particularly more from the family offices, because we have done these businesses in the past, similar businesses. So we know at the end of the day that what probably could be. So we took, say, 20 years to build a particular business, because the founders can get those entry points into those businesses or those locations if they run it right, probably in 2 years, 3 years period of time. So they can cut short their distance to probably reaching their end goal. So that's what, it's a collaborative approach at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, it's founders' call to take that. So it's available on the table, but something somebody wants, somebody has to ask for it.
Right. Sir, you have just talked about this family office. Could you please explain? Like, many founders out there don't know about the family office, what they do. So, like, could you please?
Yeah, basically, so see, it's basically hedging of the risk, and so every investment thesis has got probably allocation of the capital. So there is certain capital which has been allocated towards the strategic or the core businesses, where you own the majority of the businesses and that are family businesses. Then there is certain capital which is carved out separately. So that investment would be probably either be done, and there would be allocation further down, that how much you want to invest into the public markets, say into direct equity or through mutual funds or through alternate instruments, and how much you want to invest into the private markets, and how much you want to invest into the probably real estate or gold, depending on the various asset class. So you want to actually hedge the risk at the end of the day. So your return as a group, as a family, or as an office is secured from. Some of the family offices have created this as an alternate investment, AIF as well. But in case of some family offices, they don't want to be regulated, and they have not taken an outside capital. So they do it from their own balance sheet, from their own capital. So they may create or they may not create an AIF. If they create an AIF, they can take an external money for that. And so the responsibility of deployment of external fund is there, and probably giving back the returns to the limited partners is there. But I think in today's world, there are a lot of businesses which have created certain decent amount of wealth, and rather than putting all eggs in the basket, it is required for them to diversify. People initially has not seen the returns which a private investment which could give. But after the exit of the Flipkart, where the angel investors made a lot of money, and after that multiple exits have happened, now the people actually know that if you invest into a private investment which is not listed, it is a monetizable asset. So I think it's not a paper asset, it's a monetizable asset, and you don't need to own the entire pineapple of it. Probably a part of it is okay. So I think so that mindset change is happening, and we are seeing a lot of that in tier 2, tier 3 towns. Everybody is starting to diversify, and as the new generations are changing, I think people are more evolved, digital savvy, and they come to know that how much money is being put into the private investment market and how much returns the investors are making. So I think this market will grow further, and the investment into private investment will, so people are sitting on cash, and if you are not able to cover inflation through a fixed deposit, etc., you are losing money each day. So I think this is one of the opportunity. You can start slow by investing with a, probably as a limited partner with some fund, and where you have a direct conviction of your strategic business, you can do a direct investment, and then you can probably mix and match based on your risk appetite, what you want to do.
Right. Sir, you just spoke about this AIF. Like most of the people out there from tier 2, tier 3 cities, they don't know about AIF.
So it's basically आप किसी से 3-4 लोगों से पैसे ले रहे हैं या ज़्यादा लोगों से पैसे ले रहे हैं, तो आप सेबी गवर्नड है, सेबी आपको रेगुलेट करेगा कि आप कैसे चला रहे हैं. So you need to apply for an application and you get an approval. Based on that you get regulated. If you get regulated, then you need to comply with all the norms, etc., which is good, because as a limited partner वगैरह अगर आप बाहर से फंड लेते हैं तो कभी इंश्योरेंस किसी सेक्टर का लगा हुआ है पैसे, किसी का बाहर का पैसा लगा हुआ है. So at the end of the day, if you are a passive investor, you need to understand that where the money is going, where actually it is, and SEBI acts as a probably helping the investors to help on that nothing is going hanky panky on that stuff. So I think that is where AIF is, where you are not directly investing into a venture, लेकिन उसके ऊपर आप किसी और को पैसा दे रहे हैं जहाँ पे फंड्स आपके बिहाफ पे इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं. And at some point in time, if you do a decent investment, funds also give you a co-investment right, कि किसी एंटिटी अच्छी में मैं पैसे डाल रहा हूँ और आपको भी ये समझ में आता है, तो एज अ लिमिटेड पार्टनर मैं आपको भी ऑप्शन देता हूँ, इसमें आप डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट भी कर सकते हैं, आप डायरेक्ट भी कर सकते हैं और मेरे थ्रू भी कर सकते हैं. तो आई थिंक AIF के राउट के थ्रू आप जाते हैं, फंड्स में पैसा डालते हैं, तो मिनिमम चेक साइज जो है माइक्रो या उसके ऊपर डिपेंड करता है. अगर आप ढंग का VC के साथ इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, मतलब आप मोर स्केलेबल वन, तो 1 करोड़ का मिनिमम चेक साइज आप देंगे, उसके आप इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं, एंड देन यू कैन सी दैट हाउ दैट गेट्स रिटर्न. इट्स a typical 10-year period, and you will see that most of the good VC funds will give you return in 2 to 3 years. They will start returning your capital. There is a drawdown schedule. आपसे एक दिन नहीं मांग रहे, 3-4 साल में मांगेंगे, आप 3 साल में पैसे मांगेंगे, डिप्लॉय करेंगे उस कैपिटल को. 5-6 साल लगते हैं अच्छी कंपनी बनाने के लिए, 3 साल के अंदर डिप्लॉय करेंगे, 5-6 साल में कंपनी को अच्छा बनाएंगे, उसके बाद आखिरी के 2 साल में एग्जिट करके पैसा देंगे, और कुछ अच्छी इन्वेस्टमेंट निकल जाएंगी तो आपको 2-3 साल बाद ही रिटर्न देना शुरू कर देंगे. तो आपका प्रिंसिपल वापस आ जाएगा, आपका अपसाइड है जो वो फंड में रह जाएगा. सो इट इज़ ऑलवेज ईजी इफ योर प्रिंसिपल इज बैक, योर रिस्क इज मिटिगेटेड एंड यू आर सिटिंग ऑन एन अपसाइड. So you will see most of the VC funds today return the capital in 3 to 4 years, and after that it is only the upside which is left. So they pull out the capital. So every stage has got a different investor. So some VC funds would invest from a seed to a Series A, then they will hand over to Series A to Series B, and then there would be a late stage private equity fund which would invest, and the investors would probably take out money, and then there will be an exit event either through an IPO or a buyout or something like that happens.
At the end, जो भी VC इन्वेस्ट करता है लास्ट में, सो उसके दिमाग में क्या होता है कि दिस कंपनी इज गोइंग टू हैव एन IPO. उसके दिमाग में IPO होता है क्योंकि अब उसका कि उसका नया राउंड रहता है कि
देखिए टिपिकली अगर एक VC इन्वेस्ट करता है तो 2 या 3 राउंड करता है सक्सेसफुल इन्वेस्टमेंट के अंदर. उसके बाद उसका राउट यही होता है कि इधर अ प्राइवेट इक्विटी फंड कम्स एंड बाइज स्टेक, या उसके बाद यहाँ कंपनी उस स्टेज पे पहुँच जाती है, क्योंकि कंसोलिडेशन इज अ स्टेट विच every sector has to go through. We have seen this in telecom, we have seen this in digital e-commerce verticals, etc. सब जगह कंसोलिडेशन एक फेज के बाद आएगी. So there is an opportunity of putting 2 and 2 together, where 2 and 2 can become 5, not 4. So they will consolidate and put together and exit. That is one way of exiting it. The other way is private equity or a buyout fund, or there would be multiple outside investors who are betting big time on Indian economy or Indian consumer sector from that perspective, and they would probably buy you out at that point in time. And lastly, if nothing happens, then the IPO is the route to exit. Or you can probably choose not to take any other route except the IPO route to exit.
Right, like most of the startups out there, like in Paytm and Zomato, they took exit after the IPO, and
Right.
that made that particular company to
Yeah,
fall
but
at a certain.
but the initial investors exited early as well.
Initially,
So initial investors,
Mhm.
but the last investor who would pump in money, who has got the deepest pockets, would probably exit at the IPO route. IPO route, maybe there is a book building process, then there is certain period you can't exit. There is a lock-in period. After that, you will exit over a period of time. So there is entire gamut of things which will need to fall in place.
Right.
And so all seasoned investors have looked through the journey that what is the right stage to exit. So it's like a stock market, never buy. You will always anticipate कि अभी और बढ़ेगा, और अगर मतलब public market में जब गिर रहा है तो उठा लूँ तो पता नहीं कितना गिरेगा. So you need to fix your returns, that how much at what point in time you need to exit. There is no point being greedy. You may miss some, you may lose some, but at the end of the day, you need to be sure that how much return you are comfortable and what is the risk appetite, even as a fund, as an investor, you want to take.
Wow, such a great insight, sir. So I just wanted to ask this thing: ki, which, according to you, which one is having the less risk, angel investors or a VC? Because angel investing, we know that they'll get a return in 2 or 3 years, like mostly 5 years, like खींचा भी तो. But in VC, like आप invest ज़्यादा करते हो, you need to invest a lot of things. And I've also heard one thing, when VC comes into your table, they want all the investors out, like they are like spending too much high amounts into the table.
Right. So see, obviously before the product market fit कोई भी invest करेगा concept stage पे, angel investment उसका risk सबसे ज़्यादा है, because it has not been proven whether you would work or not. And if the VC comes after the investment has been done, or even the angel investor comes after the investment has been done, and the product market fit is achieved, तो risk minimize हो जाता है, but it's not zero. At the end of the day, it still stays. मतलब some of the investments after the seed investment, after the product market fit, may also not work because of multiple reasons. But if the VC fund after a certain point in time wants to clean the cap table, it is good in the interest of the angel investor, because they invested at a certain stage and they are getting probably a 20x or a 30x, and in some cases I have seen even a 100x return.
Wow.
When they exit a venture. It's good for them, because anybody would like as a VC fund, anybody would like a substantial stake or a certain stake in their mind, because that is their thesis. I need to hold this much of the company, and the company may not need that much of primary capital for infusion to happen. So the other way is also to mix the primary and secondary. That also keeps the blended valuation for a VC fund down, because secondary will always be discounted where the angel investors would exit as compared to the primary round, because they are getting an exit when the exit event has not actually happened. So their risk gets mitigated by monetizing the investment. So I think in that case, it's a win-win situation. I don't find any harm in exiting in investment where a strategic is coming into play, because after that it is his or her journey to take it forward, and with the founders obviously. And even if a VC funds want a significant stake in the company, say 15% to 18%, unless there is a space for a VC fund, nobody else will put in money, then you will always be stuck for an investment to exit route. So it is better to exit at the right time. So I don't find this thesis to be wrong, to be honest. You need to exit at the right time, and which you can probably take your principal back. You may not exit fully. Some VCs may ask you to take the full back, because at the end of the day, too many people on the cap table for managing the various compliances also is an issue. Board meeting करनी है, shareholders meeting करनी है, सबसे approval चाहिए. So I think if you want to run the company efficiently, after a certain hump is crossed, it is good for the angel investors to take an exit. They monetize and they can redeploy the capital into the earlier venture. And for the VC fund and other investor, it is okay to have less people to probably talk to get into the shareholders meeting and aligning. Otherwise, the founder, it is tough for the founder rather than a VC fund. Founder gets dragged from multiple people. Even a small check holder would ask that what is happening. So probably that is okay for a founder's interest also to give an exit to the angel investor, and that's something which founders probably have a moral obligation also, from where they have taken money to provide them an exit.
Sir, just wanted to just have a curiosity about this. In this whole pyramid, of this funding pyramid, who makes more money? VC founders or angel investors
It depends. So everybody, at the end of the day,
in general?
in general, everybody has to share the. So founders, I think, take the. So there's a huge respect for founders because they take a risk, leaving their good jobs and working without a market salary most of the times, and they are only based on the value creation and they build something for the scratch. So I think the value accreditation for them should be most at the end of the day because it is they who have created
Right.
the business. So people may put in money. So I have got money, I put in money, but you have put in the sweat and you have build the business on the ground. So
Right.
at the end of the day, I think generally the founder should make the most of the money.
But don't
Maybe
you?
a delayed one, but I think the maximum output should come to the founder because he or she has put in the sweat and blood and probably run the operations. That is why you will see the successful founders when they go for a second investment for a second venture of their own, they get funded a pre-revenue because
Right.
they have given return to all the investors and they know how it is required to be done from a scratch level, from a ground level. So second time the learning curve is there. So you may be able to cover the distance shorter, maybe in a different stream, but the basic thesis of the business doesn't change. GTM होना चाहिए, यूनिट इकोनॉमिक्स ठीक होना चाहिए. कोई भी बिजनेस करोगे अल्टीमेटली आपको कौन सा इन्वेस्टर चाहिए और कब एग्जिट चाहिए. So I think that is where it is. But yeah, the angel investor can end up making more money if the startup fails, and the founder can end up losing everything. Or probably at times the VC fund end up making more money because they came in early and they stayed for the larger period of the time.
Right.
So I think the making of money is also linked to the time which you spend. And it's if you calculate an IRR for everybody, so a decent IRR of 20+% anybody is making is good enough.
Wow. Sir, recently we have seen so many online funding platforms out there. Those who are just like, have you heard about this Tyke?
Yeah, so Tyke was in news because they were issuing an instrument, I think. And there are a lot of news around it being not regulated to a perspective which is required. I'm not fully aware of what has happened, but I think it is not regulated because the consumers or probably the investors were putting in money. So see, today everybody wants to do a small check investment, 1 lakh, 2 lakh ka investment, and no fund is taking that kind of money, and people don't have access and time to scout for investment. So these platforms have mushroomed up where they are putting money from the angel investors and probably putting it back into the companies. But I think it should be regulated because at the end of the day जो आप पैसे डाल रहे हो उसके against tangible asset होना चाहिए, चाहे वो इक्विटी की फॉर्म में हो, स्टॉक की फॉर्म में हो. इफ इट इज नॉट देन इट गोज इनटू सो व्हाट यू आर इन्वेस्टिंग फॉर एंड हाउ यू विल क्लेम द रिटर्न. सो आई थिंक एनी प्लेटफॉर्म from that perspective mature should be regulated to that extent. At the end of the day, if you don't have a share certificate, then you have not input the money. So how you will probably get the money back?
Right. Because I think they are doing it in escrow account kind of things, so this
they
is
are doing it in escrow, and they are issuing a new instrument which is probably employee stock option type. So employee stock option
community
is also
stocks.
Community stocks. So I think that is also an instrument which is debatable under the Companies Act as well as regulations, because from that community stock ka kya matlab hai, it has got a value or not, is it a real equity or not, because stock option is typically gets converted into equity at a later stage. It is for employees, as we typically know, not looking into this, but employee stock options gets converted into equity, so they are granted to employees as a part of the probably the payroll structure, and over a period of time it gets vested and that converted, and when stock option gets converted it's taxable, and generally the people get it converted when there is a liquidity event, so that the net of taxation happens. So I think from that perspective, options, how they are structured, it needs to test the law. So currently I think they are still under the permit. They are not clear from a legal perspective that this instrument should be legally tenable or not, but law will take its own course, and then we will come to know whether this is a valid instrument for somebody to invest or not.
Right. Recently you've talked about this family office. So like, if anyone wants to start their own family office, so how they can start their own family office? Do they need any kind of forms to fill in the SEBI, or is it easy, or is it difficult?
So it's very easy if you are investing your own capital. So you can invest so most of the founders have today invested their capital after they had they have made exits from their earlier ventures, so they can invest through their family office, and you will see more and more that coming up.
Right.
Unless you take an outside capital from somebody else, you are deploying your own capital.
Right.
Obviously, if you want to deploy it on a larger stage, your own capital, you need a team of probably somebody managing the investment, scouting for the investment, analyzing the investment, and continuously reviewing the investment that they have reached the next stage,
Right.
preparing them for the next round, and also helping them to exit at certain point in time. But if you take an external capital, then it goes into an AIF route, and you have to do all the compliance and all. आपके पैसे से आप कुछ भी करो,
कुछ भी करो,
उसके लिए आप कोई रेगुलेशन नहीं है,
Oh.
लेकिन आप किसी और का पैसा
हाँ.
लोगे, then you are regulated, definitely you are regulated.
Like no outsiders are not allowed in this family offices, right?
No, outside, if you want to convert into a fund, then you can put in you are an anchor
Oh.
investor, तो आप डाल सकते हो पैसा.
अच्छा.
मान लीजिए मैंने अगर फंड बनाना है, तो एज अ फैमिली ऑफिस आई कैन पुट इन probably a 2 million 3 million check and start, and I can take in outside money and form a fund, AIF बना के मैं शुरू कर सकता हूँ उसको.
Right.
लेकिन अगर मैं सिर्फ अपने पैसे से इन्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ, so why I will go into probably getting I'm not taking outside money, so it is whether I invest into a public market or private market. For me it is same, it's only allocation of capital, so I need not be regulated from
Right.
that perspective.
Right. What's normally the size of the family office? Like
So typically, see, any fund you will see there would be 2, 3, 4 partners depending upon
Right.
कितना बड़ा fund है. उसके नीचे you will see there will be a team which will scout for investments depending upon the market, or there would be inbound leads at today's time, and then there would be a team which would probably each person is allocated certain investments depending upon the sector expertise to manage those investments, and also be on the board of those investments to see that the board, so they are aware that what is happening with the investments and prepare for the next round and exit. So all the policy making decisions, so a sector specialist on the technology side, on the consumer side, on the SaaS side, or maybe on the any other business you are running, so that is required to be put on the board. So they manage it, the EOPs and all, how the business plan, how the MIS versus the plan is happening, and most importantly the profit and loss and the cash flows, because the cash flow according to me is the most important, because you can be any profitable number, but unless the working capital is not liquidated or churned in time, you will always be stuck for raising more and more capital. So an efficient business has got healthy cash flows.
Right. Sir, according to you, if someone want to pitch you, right? So what you look into the startup and how you evaluate कि इसकी valuation कितनी होगी?
See, valuation तो मतलब valuation is based on certain principles, but those are for the late stage ventures.
Right.
Currently, if you look into certain investments, one is the pre-revenue stage, how much conviction you have that it will do, what market size is there, and you can put a DCF analysis and see कि forward looking से present value पे discount करके क्या आएगा. Second is at times you can look into a similar venture at a similar stage, how they were valued at that point on a concept basis.
Right.
The third could be depending upon, see, how much stake would be meaningful for you to put that kind of capital in an alternate investment versus this investment you will make. And the fourth one, obviously, you can look into that how these markets, if there is a listed company in the public market, how the scale has happened, how they will be able to capture the market. It will go down to, at the end of the day, DCF analysis. So pre-revenue is basically based on the conviction. Also, it is at sometimes valued based on the time or effort which the founder will put in without a market-drawn salary to reach to a certain stage. You can value that as part of the investment which has gone into this. So अभी तक कितना investment हुआ है उस company में. So if you probably take the value of the capital plus the value of the time which has been invested by the person or the founders, couple of founders who are there, and then make it a time value of money कि इसके ऊपर उनको 10 या 15% return मिलना चाहिए. You can arrive at a bare minimum value. This is the value. I think that's the basic principle. If you feel that the startup would be successful, you value the time, the investment, plus a return on the time and investment, and value it. So that would be one threshold. So there is no one straitjacket approach. There could be multiple approach, comparables, DCF, this way, that way, that way. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a discussion between what makes, and there are certain intangibles attached to each investor which comes on the table.
Right.
That how the founder can use the investor and the investor banks on the founder. So it's a mutual gain. Depending upon that, you arrive at a value.
So you also bet on the founders.
Yeah, I to totally bet on the founders because even if the market is small, I believe that if the founder is probably a very hustler, so he or she would be able to create a space for himself or herself in the market. May not be too big, but yes, definitely would be able to create a certain space where they will find probably getting sold to a certain investor, a certain big player into that similar stream. We have seen multiple small investments after a certain period of time getting consolidated into a big venture, which is not bad.
Right.
Because they may feel that the market size is small for that particular vertical, or that vertical needs to be added into somebody else's vertical because you need to get more share from the customer's wallet. At the end of the day, जितने customer हैं आपके पास, उससे कितना पैसा आप निकाल सकते हो बिना किसी वेबसाइट पे convenience के, that is how you need to probably look into. So I think from that perspective it makes sense. And there, so multiple pivots. So Zomato started as a rating platform. After that, it started into delivery. So multiple pivots are required to reach to a certain stage. Now today, it's one of the market leaders among the two of them. So it's hard to create a third one, or it will take a significant amount of capital to reach to a certain stage at which they are.
But sir, most of the founders, they evaluate their business just like the market is this much big, and if we capture only 1%, then we'll have this. So they are valuing it on the basis of the market.
तो उसमें ऐसा होता नहीं है, क्योंकि उसमें अगर आप किसी मार्केट में आप शेयर किसी का कैप्चर करोगे तो किसका शेयर कैप्चर करोगे? आज तक मतलब there is no convincing answer either an investor or a founder can give if unless you are a category creator. आप किसका शेयर कौन अपना शेयर लूज करेगा और कैसे करोगे? तो वो तरीका वैल्यूएशन का इट इज आई थिंक क्वाइट नाइव फ्रॉम दैट पर्सपेक्टिव. वैसे होता नहीं है. कभी भी आप मार्केट शेयर अगर लेना चाहते हो, आप किसकी मार्केट खाओगे? आपके पास कोई जवाब नहीं है उसका. तो इसीलिए दैट इज नो वे टू वैल्यू. आई थिंक at the end of the day you need to bank on what you can create. I am not sure today which market share or whom market share you will be able to probably capture. You may be able to capture somebody's market share, I'm not sure. So I think it is basically market share में भी आप कैसे लगाओगे, क्योंकि target audience किसी का बिल्कुल different है. So there is an age from say anybody shopping today from an age of 15 to 75. So किसका market share खाओगे? आप क्या TG हो सकता है? वो है ही नहीं जिसका market share आप खाने की बात कर रहे हो. So I think that way it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Right. So it's very different. You need to probably have a very crystal focus किसको आप रीच करना चाहते हो और कितना उसमें मार्केट में आप कितना रेवेन्यू कर सकते हो. उसके बाद वो मार्केट कितना बड़ा होगा, आपका शेयर कितना होगा, दैट इज अ सबसेट ऑफ दैट. लेकिन किसका खाओगे मार्केट शेयर वो कोई नहीं बता सकता.
सर अभी जैसे कई सारी एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं, वर्किंग प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, दे डोंट नो अबाउट एंजल इन्वेस्टिंग. शुड दे बी डूइंग दिस एंजल इन्वेस्टमेंट? क्योंकि वो शायद स्टॉक फ्यूचर ऑप्शंस के अलावा वो और कुछ नहीं जानते. लाइक मोस्ट ऑफ द फैमिली मेम्बर्स दैट मतलब जो हमारे हैं एंड इन माई फ्रेंड सर्कल एज वेल, वो आज भी नहीं जानते एंजल इन्वेस्टमेंट क्या है. दे फील काइंड ऑफ थोड़ा सा.
If they can't continuously tap onto the market, it is ideally better to route it through some platform to invest into. If they are doing a small check through some accelerator platform, that is I think best for them. क्योंकि आपको मतलब they would be able to help analyze which investment and what price, because if you can't devote that much of time, how you will manage the investment, manage the space, understand the space, because everything requires a deep expertise. कि space में क्या, कितना space, कितना बड़ा space है, उसमें आप क्या कर रहे हो, competition क्या कर रहा है, आपका क्या differentiator है या नहीं है. अगर डिफरेंशिएटर नहीं भी है तो मार्केट कैसे इवॉल्व करेगी, आज कौन से सेक्टर में पैसा लगाना बेहतर है एज कम्पेयर टू व्हाट इज द रिस्क प्रोफाइल. एंड द रिस्क कुड बी मैक्रो, कुड बी माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक. सो आई थिंक दैट काइंड ऑफ टाइम इज नॉट अवेलेबल विद मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल you are talking about. So इसलिए they should route it through the accelerator, but they should definitely try their hand out. Depending upon that, they should be prepared to lose that kind of money. Because at the end of the day, it's a binary. They may win some, they may lose some, but at the end of the day, they will be more educated and probably taking a more informed call at the later date.
So recently I've read a report that in 2047, I think India will have more rich people on this segment. A middle class थोड़ा सा ऊपर हो जाएगी and they'll
हाँ,
come
पर
into the
कैपिटा
middle.
इनकम बढ़ेगा इंडिया,
बढ़ेगा,
पर कैपिटा
exactly.
इनकम इंडिया, ऑल स्टडी सेज कि इंडिया का पर कैपिटा
बढ़ेगा.
इनकम और पहले से भी बढ़ रहा है इंडिया का पर कैपिटा इनकम. सो देयर विल बी लॉट ऑफ अपॉर्चुनिटीज एंड still all the penetration we talk about is very less as compared to the digital world will probably thrive. Metaverse etc would probably become evolve over a period of time. Artificial intelligence will be a technology, all related to technology. Future has to go to a technology enabled, because see, most of the businesses which are legacy businesses are based on the relationships. So once you transition, each generation transition to the next generation, the relationships may not transition in that well. So but if you are a digital platform, then there is no relationship which is required. So
Right.
I am a firm believer that the digital and the technology would be a big enabler, because most of the so it's a basic, it will become a basic necessity for even the parents to be educated to do a call with you. Everybody would like to do a video call, they need to be educated how to do a video call. So
Right.
that is where the adoption would be forced onto the consumers to at all levels, to probably even talk having the basic needs done. So that is where the adoption at all levels will happen, and that is where the game would entirely shift towards more the technology driven and the digital parameters.
So like अभी जो लोग इन्वेस्टमेंट में आएंगे उनके लिए आप प्लीज़ कुड यू एक्सप्लेन कि आप कैसे अपना रिस्क और रिवॉर्ड कैसे आप इसे मैनेज करते हो.
Yeah.
तो would you like to share the
Yeah,
secret?
definitely. You need to be you don't need to overexpose yourself on a particular sector within
Right.
an investment as well. So I may be very bullish on a particular sector, but I don't know how that particular sector gets involved. Be on the invest in the companies which are on the right side of the law, where there is no dispute as such, like crypto should not as such risk regulation from the
Volatile.
angel investment currently could be avoided. Invest into those entities which are regulated, managed well, which have seen through which have a scalability
Right.
possibility, and which have a quality founder backing them up, quality founding team backing them up. So I think those investors, and don't over index yourself on particular sector.
Just wanted to ask this thing also कि अभी इन्वेस्टमेंट में क्या चेंजेस आए हैं. कुछ पहले इन्वेस्टमेंट कैसे हुआ करते थे and अभी के what are the changes in this investment landscape?
So investment landscape, every sector has got a flavor of the day or flavor of the season. So
Right.
these keep on changing. So at some point in time, initially पहले एक sector था जो चल रहा था, अब दो sector है. I think so today the change is in the side of people being more educated and evolved, and even on the side of the founders being more educated and evolved. कि क्या हो सकता है, people have seen, and Shark Tank has been a great help for everybody to understand कि क्या हो रहा है, how this gets evaluated, so how the businesses could be created and probably they could run. So I think there is a lot of education which has been imparted both on the sides of the founders as well as on the side of the investors, that how to look a particular business, how the unit economics need to be in place, at what stage somebody should put in money, depending upon the risk appetite. Product market fit क्या होता है, product market fit के बाद क्या होता है, कितने customer आ रहे हैं आपके पास, and can you run, probably somebody may not be keen to do an investment which is very operations heavy, because those business require a lot of effort. All the technology businesses are heavy, but they are more on the side of the technology. They may not be that operations heavy. So depending upon probably where the interest of the founder and where the interest of the investor is, I think they are choosing the right businesses which work for them. So that is how the evolution has taken place, and people have seen the returns happening. I think that is more important. People have seen the returns happening. They read about the unicorns, etc., and probably they read about what changes they have made to the life of the people. It's not only about the businesses which they are doing. It's also about the employment which they are generating at large in India. Any big player you see has generated a large employment, whether it be on the side of any big digital player getting a logistics, getting anything. So it's a huge employment workforce which has been deployed. which is a huge betterment for every, so life of the, and that's to answer your question, that is how the per capita income is
Right.
also increasing, because everybody's life is getting better through these startups, and we are going to probably the biggest, we are going to be the biggest hub, and that would probably help a big deal in changing the economy to a 5 trillion economy, reaching to that stage. So I think so, more evolved consumer, more evolved founder, more evolved investors, so everything is helping, and people seeing the returns which were not already visible. And there is lot of noise, but you need to probably pick up from the, you need to filter out what is required. So it's like data put into information. There is lot of data for people to read about, but you need to crystallize into information, and now there are lot of specialists around who can guide on those stuff.
In these years of investing, which investment is worth like
Every investment is worth it. So according to me, every investment is worth time spending. They may not work, they may not.
Right.
So nobody thought about the pandemic. So a lot of investments have to go through a bad phase, but most of the quality founders have bounced back well from that perspective. But I think so every investment is worth it. So the conviction was there, conviction is there on the founding team, etc. You may probably figure out at certain point in time that the investment, probably what you thought about the market was probably not that big as compared to, or the market has not picked up as it was required to be. So like electric vehicles has now picked up big time, so it's a government push. At some sectors would need a strong government push. So scrapping of the old vehicles, it's a definite push. So somebody has to adopt electric vehicles. It is required in interest of the health of the people, in interest of being carbon zero, etc. It's required. So certain where the policies get shifted towards a certain industry, they are going to thrive. So I think from that perspective, government has been a great support. So whatever policies, etc., are coming, ease of doing business, etc., has also helped people from that perspective into coming into India and investing big time. So there is lot done, but a lot more to be done for us to reach where we want to be, and definitely I think everybody is working towards it.
So would you like to share कि in your portfolio सबसे आपका बड़ा कौन सा रहा है investment? मतलब startup कौन सा?
Startup. So we have a very small stake in off business, and those guys have done a great job. I think both the founders are quality.
$5 billion.
So we have a very small stake, but I think that's. But according to me, so everything is a good investment. But also we have in our portfolio Mukunda Foods, which has got Zomato as an investor. Couple of investments we have sold. Milo and Care, we sold to PolicyBazaar.com. There was an investment in co-living space we sold to SAR Family Office, and some more on the cusp of probably taking the next leap. So I think supply chain and BFC we are running, that's also doing good. So I think across sectors, B2B e-commerce, so that is also doing fairly good on that perspective. So I think we are fairly, so not many fatalities in the portfolio, but yeah, it has been a good journey so far.
Wow. So in a kind of कि आप किसी एक सेक्टर पे ज़्यादा इन्वेस्ट करते हो कि like आप diversify?
You have to diversify. So I would go to a certain extent कि आप consumer business को strategic चला रहे हो तो आप diversify tech में आप ज़्यादा investment करोगे, क्योंकि you know that you yourself are making money from the strategic business, you know the consumer business, so probably you will invest more into the side of the strategy on the technology led businesses, or more into the technology piece, which probably will give you a better return, where your investment, so it is always about the hedging the risk at the end of the day, and depending upon your risk profile. जो मैं कर रहा हूँ वो तो मुझे पता ही है, जो मैं नहीं कर रहा हूँ उससे क्या मिल सकता है वहाँ पे इन्वेस्ट करने में.
Exactly. So जैसे आप कहीं भी आप इन्वेस्ट करते हो तो you talk about this due diligence, और वो क्या होता है थोड़ा सा लोगों को.
तो ड्यू डिलीजेंस बेसिकली आप जो बोल रहे हो एज अ फाउंडर कि आप बोल रहे हो मैंने इतना रिवेन्यू किया है, इतनी कॉस्ट पे किया, इतनी यूनिट इकोनॉमिक्स वगैरह हिस्टोरिकल बेसिस पे उसको वैलिडेट करना कि एक्चुअली में वो हुआ है कि नहीं हुआ. देयर कुड बी अ माइनर वेरिएशन विच इज़ एक्सेप्टेबल, क्योंकि आप MIS सर्कुलेट कर रहे हो, जब ऑडिटेड नंबर्स आएंगे देयर कुड बी एज अ स्टार्टअप एवरीबडी नोज दैट सर्टन अक्रूवल्स या प्रोविजंस आपने नहीं लिए होंगे, सो इट कुड बी 80-85% एक्यूरेट जो आप नंबर्स दे रहे हो. The second would be on the legal side, which is more important. I think for any investor कि आपने कंपनी इनकॉर्पोरेशन वगैरह उसके बाद जो कंप्लाइंसेस हैं, बोर्ड रेजोल्यूशन या जो फाइलिंग्स है आरओसी के पास, वो सब की हुई हैं कि नहीं की हुई, टाइमली की हुई हैं, लीगल डिलीजेंस, आपके एग्रीमेंट्स जो आपके कस्टमर्स के साथ हैं वो एग्रीमेंट्स राइट स्टेज पे है कि नहीं है, वन साइडेड कोई एग्रीमेंट तो नहीं है कि सामने वाला आप किसी इन्वेस्टर को बोल रहे हो कि मेरे पास इतना बड़ा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है पर वो बाइंडिंग नहीं है, वो टर्मिनेट किया जा सकता है, सामने वाली पार्टी से म्यूचुअल नहीं है, या वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऐसा है सेल ऑफ गुड्स का है लेकिन वो कंसाइनमेंट सेल्स का है कि बिक जाएगा तो पैसे दे दूंगा. सो आई थिंक ऑल दोज थिंग्स आर रिक्वायर्ड टू बी वैलिडेटेड एंड देयर इज नो हार्म in probably in diligence which it comes out, it is actually the validation of what you are saying and also gives an insight to the founder, because at the business level the CEO or the founder, co-founder which is running may not be 100% into what is happening through the team and all, so this gives them a valid insight what needs to be course corrected as well at certain point in time. So there is no intent, I think, for the intent of any founder to be probably doing anything which is not required, not to be on the right side of the law, but it is always good to have a gatekeeper or a checking balance that everything maker checker wala concept hona chahiye. So this is like according to me it's more like a maker and checker. आप जो बोल रहे हो फ्यूचर पे तो हम बेट कर ही रहे हैं लेकिन जो हिस्टोरिकल बोल रहे हो वो तो ठीक होना चाहिए.
एग्जैक्टली. सो या और क्या सर रेड फ्लैग्स होते हैं ये ड्यू डिलिजेंस में, व्हाट यू सी?
रेड फ्लैग्स यही, मतलब आपने जो बोल रखा है कि मतलब वो फिजिकली ट्रांजैक्शंस होनी चाहिए, डिलीजेंस होना चाहिए, एग्रीमेंट्स होने चाहिए इन प्लेस में, जितने आप कस्टमर बोल रहे हो वो कस्टमर्स आपके पास हैं कि नहीं है, कि आप बोल रहे हो कि मेरा इतना कस्टमर बेस है, इतना कस्टमर मेरी प्लेटफॉर्म के ऊपर, मतलब इफ़ यू गो इनटू वन लेवल डीप इनटू द टेक्नोलॉजी डिलीजेंस, तो आपने टेक्नोलॉजी आपकी कितनी वो है कि कितने डेली एक्टिव यूजर्स है, कितने मंथली एक्टिव
आर दे फॉलोइंग द सेबी रूल्स,
फॉलोइंग्स वगैरह वो सारे जो आपका कॉस्ट पर क्लिक क्या है, कस्टमर एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट क्या है, आपका रिटेंशन क्या है. अगर आप उस साइड पे आओगे लीगल साइड पे तो सारे एग्रीमेंट्स कहीं पे आपने बाहर से पैसा ले रखा है तो उसकी कंप्लाइंस कर रखा है, FEMA वगैरह के अगेंस्ट all on the right side of the law you are doing everything, all the legal compliances have been done. So I think so all those things are required to be in place and it also helps founder to prepare for a next round, because if everything gets checked and there is something to be fixed, you get a CP or a CS. CP होता है कि पैसे डालने से पहले आपको कंडीशन प्रेसिडेंट ये सब फुलफिल करना पड़ेगा. CS है कि ठीक है आप कहते हो कि इसमें थोड़ा सा टाइम लगेगा तो कंडीशन सब्सिक्वेंट है, आप 30 दिन या 60 दिन में ये सब कर देना. So that's an obligation on the founder. So any good founder takes it well, I think, from that perspective कि CP है या CS है, and investors are also cognizant of what is required, what is absolutely necessary before the investment to, or the funds to be transferred is a condition precedent. What probably could take time and is not dependent on the founder, could be a condition subsequent. And sometimes there are multiple laws. You might skip something, and it is always good to have a third eye to probably review it, that if a law is being missed or skipped, if you need to have a certain registration that is missing, that gets probably addressed at the right time rather than a later stage when it would result into a larger penal consequences.
So you just talked about this outside funding, तो इसका क्या रूल है इंडिया में? आप अगर बाहर से फंडिंग,
आप कई सेक्टर्स हैं जहाँ पे आप 100% इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो, वहाँ पे कोई परेशानी नहीं है. कई सेक्टर हैं जहाँ पे आप रिस्ट्रिक्टेड हो, जैसे कहीं पे जैसे आप मल्टी ब्रांड रिटेल में आप रिस्ट्रिक्टेड हो, अमेज़न वगैरह में आप देखेंगे दे आर मार्केट प्लेसेस ओनली. सो मल्टी ब्रांड रिटेल टू प्रोटेक्ट द इंडियन रिटेलर, सो दैट्स रिस्ट्रिक्टेड, यू कांट इन्वेस्ट बियॉन्ड अ सर्टेन. Similarly in certain sectors there is a restriction, defense etc, you can't invest beyond a certain, a foreign capital you can't take. So there are certain restrictions, but most of the sectors are open where the money comes into an automatic route and you can invest into the business. So there is no limitation, but typically आप देखेंगे VC funds, every VC fund has got a local investment arm where they will put in local money. So all the multi-country based VCs would have a local VC arm from where they invest into the venture.
Sir, जब भी आप इन्वेस्ट करते हो, whenever you invest, would you look into the pitch deck?
Yeah, definitely. Pitch deck.
So what are the things?
So pitch deck gives you a flavor that what is going into that, and after that, I think a couple of conversations with founder helps understand better. Said what is written is actually in the mind of the founder and in the strategy what he or she is thinking about it, and that's important. I think pitch deck gives a flavor what you want to do. So I think pitch deck is important.
So what you look into it?
So I look into so obviously financials is one, then the market and everything which is written, and how you are being differentiated, and most importantly, how you treat your competition as. So if you say that you have no competition, it is surprisingly so. If you say there is a competition and they have got this much market share, and I am doing this differently, so if you are doing this differently, why other person can't do? That would be the obvious question.
That was the obvious question.
If you
Right.
so obviously anybody can do. So
Right.
today anything could be done by Meta, or
Right.
probably for anybody could do on anything. Google could do anything what we are doing on the digital space. But
Much easier.
whether they have a focus on that,
Right.
whether they will really do that, and probably really do that, nobody knows. Whether they have a focus, and whether you have a head start advantage on what you have built.
Now they can also do it in more efficient way, and even in
Frugal manner. Yeah,
cost
absolutely.
efficient also.
Yeah, very cost efficient. So I think cost efficiency is the key. See, revenue is based on the third party. A founder can only control cost, and you need to build the cost depending upon how much you earn. So it's a basic principle of anybody running their houses. So I think revenue is dependent on आप कितना बेच पाओगे. That is dependent on the third party. But cost बढ़ाना घटाना आपके हाथ में है.
Right.
And so that you should be cautious. At an X increase in revenue, you can see you can do an X minus this much increase in cost to maintain a healthy unit economics. If you focus only on one side of building the cost and not on, then you are always dependent on the external money to survive. Right. Which may be good at certain point in time if you have created a big venture and you have a capacity to raise large amount of capital, but at certain times in early stage it may not work. You need to have a path to reach to a certain milestone where somebody else can invest into your business. So that's why because something may go haywire, and probably your revenue may need to taper down by say 20-30%, but the costs are fixed.
Right.
So obviously your margins would be under stretch.
So one important thing that you want everyone to include the things on the pitch deck, कोई एक ऐसी चीज हो जो वो pitch deck में डाले ही डाले.
तो मेरे ख्याल तो मतलब I think so people don't put cash flows. I would love to see cash flow in the pitch deck, क्योंकि आप revenue कितना भी कर रहे हो, पर आपका working capital कितना लगा हुआ है और cash flow कितना आ रहा है, revenue cash में कितना translate हो रहा है और खर्चे कितने pay कर रहे हो, that is important. I think that gives a real picture of the business. So I think most of the people only give a P&L. They don't give a balance sheet. Sometimes loss is not sitting in the P&L. It is sitting in the balance sheet, particularly for the businesses which are working capital heavy. Because अगर कुछ नहीं बिक रहा तो वर्किंग कैपिटल में बैठा हुआ है. सो यू नीड टू सी द कैश फ्लोज. अगर आप रिवेन्यू बेच भी रहे हो तो पुश कर रहे हो आप किसी की सेल को, तो कितनी देर में करेक्ट.
Like mostly founders don't add these things in.
They don't. So I think that's ultimately, if you don't add, it's okay. It will get into a diligence. Diligence will obviously pick that up. So anybody doing a diligence will pick that up. But it is good to be transparent. It shows the transparency of the founder that what I am actually translating. Revenue is actually translating into a cash flow and the gross margin and the unit economics down to the EBITDA level. Future देखना अच्छा है, मतलब everybody gives about the future, I think, but where we stand today we should be cognizant of that fact. So I can bridge it out कि अभी जहाँ से है, या कोई भी इन्वेस्टर जो देखेगा वो ब्रिज कर सकता है आज जहाँ से आप बोल रहे हो वहाँ से वहाँ तक की जर्नी कितनी बड़ी होगी और कितना पैसा लगेगा, कितना एफर्ट लगेगा, कितना टाइम लगेगा. एंड यू एज अ फाउंडर where somebody talks to you whether you are ready to put in that effort or not.
But don't you think that that thing will backfire for the founders perspective?
In any which ways diligence पे वो
पता ही चल जाएगा.
So it is rather transparent. It is good to have founders whom you can trust and be transparent. I would rather like a founder to tell me a bad situation today rather than I figuring it out, because in that case trust factor is not breached and I don't need to overlook on your shoulder that what you are hiding. So I think that's the biggest trust which a founder and an investor should have. So I think so everybody knows that what you are saying in the pitch deck will not 100% fall in place when you go to the ground. It could be better as well. But if you tell upfront, the good story any which ways will come to the investor, right? Through you or through founder or anybody. But the bad story before it comes to somebody else, if the founder tells the investor, I think that kind of trust is that quality of founder is paramount, which is required.
Wow, this is such a great insight you have just said. What are the red flags that you see in founders?
मेरे को तो फेस वैल्यू पे तो सभी ठीक है, सभी ठीक है. आई थिंक डोंट ओवर एस्टिमेट योर सेल्फ एंड बी रियलिस्टिक ऑन द ग्राउंड.
Right.
आई थिंक दैट्स द की. And see, you should be very passionate about your venture, but at the same time, be be amenable to a change. So I always take an example of cricket. I'm a big fan of cricket. So
Wow.
MS Dhoni is great. He can have 7 captains or 5 captains play under him.
Right.
He never scores a century. He comes at number 1 to score a century, but he manages the team well. So that is
Right.
the quality which is required in a leader. That's why everybody loves MST.
Wow.
That is the quality which is required. So I need to help people play, give them a space, what is required, and if nothing happens, I'm there. You have my back.
Right. Sir, suppose you want to invest today. And so what all research a founder should do just to impress you?
नहीं, सबको impress करने की जरूरत नहीं. I think founders do a decent job.
हाँ.
Once they have taken a plunge, I think most of them have obviously done their homework, that why they are entering into this space, why they believe this space would be successful, and why they will be successful in this space, even if the success is successful. I think all those things need to come out from the founder by way of communication. That is good enough. I think so. I don't believe somebody taking a plunge without going deep into what they want to do, where they want to invest their next 5 years or 10 years into. So I totally believe that founders know much more than investors. It is only putting that across to the investors, and if there is a quality research and everything which has been done, so it will not change anybody's investor's view. What you have researched, the same research will be thrown by me.
Right.
It's like a chat GPT. Everybody gets the same result.
Exactly.
You ask, I ask, it will get the same result. So your research is as good. It acts as a validation for me when I do my research. If a founder tells me कि यार ये ऐसा होता है, if we validate, any investor validates, and they believe वाकई में ऐसा होता है, तो ठीक है. So that's the guy is good. He or she has done a good homework. They believe the industry is successful. The investor may still believe that it's not successful. So that could be one way of not investing. Right. At the end of the day, see, founders also needs to understand that there are a lot of people in market to probably raise capital, and each fund needs to do say 4 to 5 investment maximum in a year. So you need to say only no. And you need to say only no unless you get that one investment where you want to bet on.
Right.
So it is not bad on the part of VC fund, but VC fund has a job to say no. But most of them explain also why they are saying no. They may be wrong, but they may say that their thesis may be wrong. But that is what their conviction is. Today, their conviction is not on what your conviction is. And we can agree to disagree. That's a healthy discussion, and we can stay in touch. Maybe if I am wrong and your conviction is right, we can invest in the next round.
Right. So I just wanted to ask this thing. I have just a question about this. I've seen many founders out there. They are just talking about this lead investor, and then investment came after, like वो जब invest कर दिया उन्होंने, फिर उसके बाद बाकियों ने invest किया. So how this thing works, like.
तो देखिए, आज की तारीख में this has become more prevalent now, because people obviously with the market being where it is today, in the funding winter where it is, so even that has become a norm that 4-5 people from the investment circle are also looking into the investment, and all of them collaborate to put in a capital, rather than one person putting a larger check, which was initially the case. On the conviction basis, on what they believe is valid. Now, it's probably they are also getting it validated from a couple of colleagues in the fraternity that what they believe and what they anticipate is right or not. So I think the lead investor obviously sets the price, and as a lead investor, they will get the other people along. If they have a conviction and they have set the price, obviously if they pool the other people together for a founder should be happy.
Right. How you balance, do you invest in a long-term business or a short-term business? Or
investment is always long-term horizon. So it's a short-term. We don't short sell anything or probably do a short sell. It's not. So even for a founder, it's a long-term business. For an investor, it's a long-term horizon. So typically funds have a 10-year life. You can say it's family offices are patient. They also have a
Mm.
same life because I don't need to return capital to anybody.
Right.
So LPs, I don't have LPs to return capital, but
Mm.
venture capitalists are also, so 8 to 10 years. They also have. I think if any venture needs to be created, a good venture gets created in 8 to 10
Right.
years.
Right.
So I think that's a reasonable period for anybody, and that's a vintage which founders should also take to invest and give the time to a particular business. 8 से 10 साल में कोई उससे पहले बन जाएगा, इट्स अ ग्रेट, लेकिन
Right.
इतना टाइम लगता है.
सर आप नए इन्वेस्टर्स को क्या इस चीज़ पे सलाह देना चाहते हैं जो आने वाले कई कॉर्पोरेट एम्प्लॉयज़ हैं जो एंजल इन्वेस्टर बनना चाहते हैं, दे वांट टू जॉइन सम वीसी फर्म्स आल्सो, दोज हु आर अर्निंग अ गुड मनी आउट देयर, सो what are all the suggestions that you want to give these guys?
See, investment करने के लिए unless you can't devote the time and effort, it's like a stock market, you go through a mutual fund route. So according to me, going through an accelerator or investing with some of the funds, I think 1 crore is a big ticket size, but micro VCs भी हैं जिसमें आप छोटा चेक ला सकते हैं, तो आप micro VCs के थ्रू आपको जाना चाहिए, because you at least can't devote 100% of time. You have a full-time job running. So I think that is the right route for the people who want to invest and take a buy into that. और जो मतलब people who want to move into the VC funds, etc., they need to be more focused on how to evaluate the startup, do a deep research, be more inquisitive, ask more questions. So I think so. Ask more questions, get more answers, and first ask questions more from yourself about the market, why you should invest your capital into this business. At the end of the day, VCs are front ending for somebody who has put money into them.
Exactly.
So they should be very much comfortable. If they want to put in their money, they will put into this investment. This is the right investment. Lot of research on the market, lot of research on the founders, lot of research on the size of the market, on the conviction, etc., and how the market would expand. At the end of the day, future is probably, it's as good for an estimate for you as good for me, but I think so. But definite, probably based on certain science and methodology, future estimate is best made, and that's what is required. So our deep research about the sector is required. If you want to go into a particular sector, you should know what all is happening into that sector, how the sector is evolving, building up, what you feel, how the government policies are supporting or not supporting that sector at certain point in time, how the market is the market fragmented, consolidated, etc., कितने player है market में, regional है क्या है. So lot of thesis behind analyzing. So TAM is a big number, but how you feel that you will not obviously start your business by entire India.
Right.
You
Like
will
most
start
of
in
the
a
founders,
particular
they do.
geography. Yeah, you will start in a particular cluster-based approach or a particular state or a particular geography. उसमें आप कितना कर सकते हो? I think that is what is also, to answer your question, that is missing in the deck. आप पहले पूरे भारत
पैन
इंडिया में थोड़ी शुरू करोगे. आप पहले कहाँ पे करना चाहते हो, इस पैसे से, और कहाँ तक पहुँचोगे? That is important.
But sir, they also need to show the vision also, like कि हम यहाँ
vision should be one slide. Vision should be
vision.
one slide, but where this capital would take me, what is my milestone? So see, it's a journey. You have to reach to from X to Y, but what are the stops in between where you will reach, which will ensure that you are on track and you have not taken a U-turn. So that is important for anybody to know. कि आप उस ट्रैक पे हैं कि नहीं है, कि आपने अपने लिए भी माइलस्टोन बनाए होंगे ना, 1 साल में, 2 साल में, 3 साल में, 4 साल में, in your career where you want to be. So that milestone is required for even for a founder to do it for his or her startup as well. कि कहाँ पे आप पहुँचना चाहते हो 1 साल में, 2 साल में, 3 साल में, कहाँ से शुरू करोगे, फिर कौन सा शहर चूज करोगे, फिर पूरे इंडिया में कब करोगे, and that is how your revenue will also show up in the numbers as well. It will not कि पहले दिन ही आप मतलब इतने छोटे से पैसे से लेके आप पहले दिन में पूरा इंडिया कैप्चर कर लोगे. That will never going to happen. Go deep rather than going very wide. I think so. That is more important. Go deep into particular rather than going wide. If you have proven something in one particular district or geography, then replication of that playbook into other geography is slightly easy. Although in India every 200 kilometers it changes, but still it is easy. But if you say that I will do the entire India in one day, it is tough unless you are a digital business, because then you are catering to everybody. But if you are doing a very focused approach, I think that is important, even for the digital business, to prove an early stage business. Ki I have cracked this geography, this way I have cracked, and I know that next time when I do the next geography, the learning curve is there and this would be more efficient.
Right. So, अभी कई budding entrepreneurs हैं they are like coming from tier 2 tier 3 colleges, right? बहुत छोटी उम्र में वो they want to do business, right? Because अभी startup culture आ रहा है, तो they wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? अपना सब startup करना चाहते हैं, एंड धीरे धीरे वो वीसी की तरफ अभी अभी स्टार्टअप का रहा है, एंड देन व्हेन दे रियलाइज दिस थिंग कि कितना बड़ा वीसी होता है, कितना बड़ा एंजल इन्वेस्टर होता है, देन दिस थिंग ऑल्सो स्टार्ट बिकमिंग कूल, राइट? तो आने वाले जो बडिंग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स हैं, उनका उनके बारे में आप क्या बोलना चाहते हैं, और वो कैसे अपनी लाइफ में एक इन्वेस्टमेंट के दौर में पहुंच सकते हैं ड्यूरिंग देयर स्टार्टअप जर्नी?
So see, मतलब age is no barrier. So we have seen people like Ritesh at 27
Right.
running the entire OYO, which is a path-breaking model. So I think age के हिसाब से कोई barrier नहीं है, but I think at certain point in time, certain maturity and that is where all the mentors and advisors have come. But you should have those people probably helping and guiding, because they will help you to cut short your distance and help you guide. It is at the end of the day up to founder to take it or leave it, but it is
Right.
always good to hear. It will give you a perspective about what is happening around the world. I think that is important. Everybody who is probably getting into this journey should probably talk to seasoned people around to understand that this is not going to be easy. First of all, if you believe that anything would be created very fast and it would be a $1 billion valuation in a day, it will not happen, or $1 billion you can take away. So valuations are artificial till you can actually monetize it. That is first step which the founders need to understand. Create a business, valuation will be a outcome of that. Create a business, solve a problem which is worth it. The valuation is a derivative of it. It is not valuation first and business later. It is business first and valuation later. Valuation will always kick in. And the second is, I think, getting the right people around, building a strong team, and don't be probably focused on that somebody else is more probably more brainy or thought, probably have an out of box thinking as compared to me. So I think that should be not. It is good to have smart people around.
Wow.
And they can think out of box and they can support you at some point in time. You may also promote them as a co-founder with you, because these guys can actually run a vertical and support you in helping in your journey. I think those things are very important for somebody to learn. VC कल्चर तो सबको पता ही है, आएगा तो थोड़े टाइम में. फाउंडर्स वांट टू अ सक्सेसफुल फाउंडर और वन somebody who has worked into this environment for 3-4 years would obviously be handy to any VC, because they know that sector very well and the related sectors very well. So it could be probably a path from there for them to move into a VC fund, because they know how it is done at the ground level, and somebody only sitting and probably preaching about it will not know. So I think so that is a natural outcome or natural progression which would happen over a period of time. Today also it's happening. It was a natural progression which would happen. तो उसके लिए I see it is a bright future for anybody who wants to enter it. But just don't enter for the sake of doing startup because it's a buzzword. Exactly. There has to be a real problem. There has to be a real time devotion from your side to probably spend that amount of time in building a startup. It is a journey. It is not going to be a 2-minute Maggie.
Right. So just a last question that I want to ask just came into my mind कि लोग funding लेते हैं investors से and they put huge amount in marketing thing, right? So according to you, what should be the amount of marketing for this? Like जैसे बहुत सारे लोग 8 लाख like 8 lakhs or 20 lakhs they spend on marketing, right? So do you think this marketing thing works with the money of
sometimes it depends upon आपके पास कितना पैसा और कितना खर्च कर सकते हो और marketing कहाँ पे कर रहे हो, which is the most frugal way of doing a business. So ROI हर चीज़ की आनी चाहिए. Marketing के ऊपर आप क्या ROI निकाल रहे हो, whether it is actually translating into sales or not. Sometimes you will do where the ROI will come later. Like if you do anything which is on offline space, will take its time to mature. Do you have that much of capital to probably put into that space? Right. At some point in time, you may need to put in that capital into that space. That has to be in conjunction with how much capital you have raised and how much you see. If you put something into the marketing, that end of the day, you need to figure out कि customer acquisition cost क्या है, lifetime value क्या है. आपका lifetime value लोग निकालते हैं सिर्फ revenue के ऊपर, उसको contribution margin पे निकालना पड़ेगा कि lifetime value to क्या कितना आ रहा है. कितना
Right.
तभी पैसा बनेगा ना जब
Exactly.
लाइफ टाइम वैल्यू टू कैक निकालोगे,
हाँ.
कस्टमर चर्न होगा, उसके साथ सब कुछ होगा.
Hmm.
तो रिटर्न ऑन इन्वेस्टमेंट इज द की. आई थिंक समटाइम you are right, मार्केटिंग इज ओवर इंडेक्स. That is also to probably beef up certain scale and certain geographies or certain new products you launch which will need innovative marketing and will need more marketing spend and revenue will flow later. But then that visibility should be there and that should be measured accordingly. And accordingly it should be adjusted if that is not working, because everything which you believe will work, अगर आप 10 प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च कर रही हो आज की तारीख में and you want to spend on marketing, हर प्रोडक्ट के ऊपर you will bleed out. तो मतलब 2 प्रोडक्ट 3 प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च कर रही हो, उसके ऊपर you allocate a certain budget and see that how much sale you expect from this product to happen in next 2-3 months, it's working or not. And it could be a digital marketing, it could be an offline, depending upon where you want to be. At certain times offline is important to build a brand because जो दिखेगा वो बिकेगा.
Exactly.
ऑनलाइन में आप जितना भी कर लो लेकिन इट इज़ अ स्प्लर ऑफ अ मोमेंट. आपने देखा तो ठीक है, नहीं तो देखा तो नहीं तो ठीक है. बट ऑफलाइन में it is important. If you are plastered around the town, you are visible to everybody, then probably people will try to use that product or probably buy that product.
But that will also coexist, right?
Yeah,
like,
that will coexist. It can't be either or.
हाँ,
But
either or.
जितना पैसा अभी पहले है उसके हिसाब से you can do only digital marketing, influencer based marketing, Facebook वगैरह कर सकते हैं. You need to do that. You need to leverage the marketplaces where the traffic is high, because आप single brand के ऊपर marketing करोगे, always the customer acquisition cost will be high because discovery is not available to a consumer.
Right.
अगर discovery नहीं है तो मेरे को ये customer लाने के लिए marketing बहुत ज़्यादा करनी पड़ेगी. So you need to balance out, allocate the budget right and measure the ROI etc. in a right space and at least see the lifetime value to CAC is making sense for the business. If not today, how it is gradually improving. Retention has to be good.
Right.
जितना पैसा मार्केटिंग में खर्च कर रहे हो अगर रिटेन नहीं हो रहा कस्टमर, then you need to spend again.
So believe in inbound kind of marketing.
Yeah, retention maybe either way. So I even prefer a customer care calling or a WhatsApp chat calling to all those people, which is the cheapest way.
Right.
That is cheapest, and then to retain the customer. If your product is good, the customers will order. Exactly. Even 50% of those reorders who are missing it, who may not know about it, and you do a outbound calling or probably a WhatsApp or anything digitally to probably talk to them. So that's important. और B2C में तो यूनिवर्स फिर भी बड़ा है. अगर आप B2B कर रहे हो तो यूनिवर्स बहुत छोटा है. You can't afford to lose a customer. क्योंकि your particular category में आप B2B में कर रहे हो, that repeat percentage has to be very high.
Right.
It has to make sense.
Exactly. So you've just given such a great insight, sir. And I think जो अभी हमने ख़त्म किया ये वाली पॉडकास्ट, तो हमें लगता है कि ये बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट होगा आने वाले नए इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए, आने वाले नए एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के लिए, इवन द बडिंग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स जो ये देखेंगे पॉडकास्ट. एंड थैंक्स फॉर कमिंग to this
Thanks
podcast.
for having me. Anything which helps. Probably I've given my perspective. The views could be entirely different for different people, but I think that's how we see when we invest, and it's at the end of the day it's a personal view for everybody.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for coming to this.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.